Hey guys, this is Michael Tessalona, and this is my first ever YouTube video for this new channel. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about success principles, and in particular, the biggest thing that I've learned from jujitsu and how jujitsu has helped me in business and really in life in general. So, in jujitsu, I am a purple belt, and I remember the very first jujitsu class I ever went to, and I was a white belt, and I wrestled in high school. I wrestled about a year in college, and when I went onto the mats, I thought I had, a little bit of an advantage with wrestling, and I definitely did. But my very first few days, I remember going there and rolling with other white belts and blue belts and some purple belts. And the people who were purple belts, they seemed like they had a superpower. It literally seemed like it didn't matter how much stronger or athletic I was than these people, I could not do anything. They would just roll with me and they would tap me, within 5 seconds, and then we'd start again and they'd tap me in 10 seconds, and we'd start again and they'd tap me in another 5 seconds. And it really just felt like, oh my gosh, these people have this skill which is so unbelievably, higher than where I was at. And and at the time it seemed unbelievable to imagine that I would ever possess that skill. And it's kind of crazy that if you fast forward about 4 years, I've had multiple instances where I go on the mats and I don't really like to roll with the white belts, especially people who just start out. But, there's been many instances where, I get those guys who've only been training for about a month, and I'm able to tap them out with ease, and it's so wild because when this first happened, I realized, I'm like, wow, here was a skill that I thought was going to be impossible. Here was like this achievement that I thought was absolutely going to be, impossible to meet. And then here it is, like I've got it, which is pretty wild. And, I think back on it and I realized that, what made that happen wasn't, anything really special about me. It was really about a method. It was really about this success principle that I want to share with you. This is something that I've gotten from, it's been fleshed out by a lot of other people. They've, helped inform my thoughts on this. But if I could, basically boil it down into 2 points, it's, one, to continue to seek understanding, and number 2, to take action on what it is that you've just learned. So in jiu-jitsu, it's actually pretty amazing because the way that a lot of these classes are structured is, you go into the gym and say it's an hour and a half class. What you'll have is half of the class devoted to learning a new skill or learning a new technique and then drilling it, practicing it. And then the second half of the class is live rolling, where you're trying to, in a live situation, you're trying to apply those techniques that you've just learned, but also the techniques that you've learned, over the subsequent, weeks and months and, eventually years. And what I found out, and this is something I realized about wrestling also, when I was in wrestling, I noticed that the guys who were really, really good, it wasn't necessarily about them being special or talented or athletic. I mean, those things definitely mattered, but what really mattered was the mat time. And with jiu-jitsu, it was the exact same thing, where it was more about dedicating, myself to showing up 3 times a week. Like, that was the biggest thing. And as long as I dedicated myself to showing up 3 times a week, I had in the classes the success formula already built in, because half of it would be learning and then half of it would be taking action. And this may seem simple, but it's really amazingly profound, because this success principle is something that you can really apply to anything in life or anything that you want to get good at. And when I look back at all the different areas that I've had success in business or in cooking or in health or relationships or whatever, it really did boil down to these two things, the right combination of learning and then the right combination of taking action. One of the big things that I see, because I'm a coach for entrepreneurs, and one of the big things that I see as the thing holding a lot of people back is the fact that say folks buy a course or they're consuming information or some content, they've got that learning thing down, and they're happy to learn, and sometimes they even feel like, all right, the learning has given them momentum, it's given them progress, so they feel happy about it. But there's not the action portion of it tied to it. And that's what was, so beautiful about jiu-jitsu, is that you had the learning, but then you also had somebody who was saying like, all right, guys, now it's the time, that we're going to take action and we're really going to learn about this. We're going to actually, see it in practice out there on the mats. And so, that's really like the biggest thing that, I would say the biggest message of this video is to take a combination of learning and then also not to forget that it's about taking action as well. And so, this is my first YouTube video because I've been kind of sitting on the fence learning for a bit. And I want to go out there. I want to start, producing this content so I can contribute to people and, really help and share some good ideas out there. So if you guys have, been learning something, I would just encourage you to carve out some time today to take action on whatever it is that you've been learning. And 50-50 is probably a really great ratio. If you spent an hour learning something, carve out at least an hour to try to implement that thing and see where you can see where you get. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.